Hey everyone, Demi Tebow here. I'm so excited about this conversation that I'm about to have with Kelsey Mize. She is our Senior Manager of Anti-Trafficking and Child Exploitation at the Tim Tebow Foundation. And not only is she an absolute expert in this field and one of the heroes of mine in the way that she has helped fight against one of the greatest evils I believe that we are facing in this day and age, but she's also a mom of two young girls. My heart for this conversation is that everybody watching today will walk away feeling like they understand the evil that we are facing a little bit better.
So when it comes to human trafficking, there is so many misconceptions, especially around sex trafficking. Anytime you turn on social media or turn on the news, there's a new sensationalized headline that's going to instill fear in any parent's heart. A lot of people, when they hear sex trafficking, they are thinking the white van, or they're thinking the movie clips, the kidnapping, their child being maybe snatched while they're at the grocery store or in the parking lot. But in reality, most traffickers are somebody the child knows. We're seeing that about 41% of all trafficking is done by somebody in their family. So this is a mom or a dad or a grandparent who is selling their child, whether it's for money for rent or drugs or food. Person that they're supposed to trust and who's supposed to love them, who is then, harming them in this way and betraying their trust. The other most kind of common type of trafficker that we're seeing is somebody that the survivor sees as a romantic partner. Somebody that, again, has groomed them, has maybe met them online, met them at school or the park, and has just slowly began building a relationship with them, earning their trust, showering them with money and gifts and all of those things, and then begins exploiting them. Traffickers are going to go to where the kids are. So they're going to keep up with the technology. They're going to know which games kids are drawn to, which games kids are playing. In my generation growing up, we were taught stranger danger. You were taught to kind of be on the lookout for those people. But now we give our kids phones and we allow them access to the internet where they're talking to strangers constantly. And those strangers are able to find out really intimate knowledge about who they are, what they like, what they don't like, where they live, what vulnerabilities they might have. So they're able to know, hey, this child doesn't feel loved at home. They're, feeling ostracized at school. How can I provide that love that they're missing? How can I make them feel safe and accepted? And it starts preying on those vulnerabilities and making that child feel that love and that security that they're craving. Trafficking is often not somebody's first trauma that they experience in life. So most trafficking survivors have histories of child sexual abuse, of neglect, of physical abuse, of instability within the home. And all of those combined kind of lay that foundation for a predator to then go and start preying on those vulnerabilities, being able to offer them the things that they don't feel like they have in their life or the things that were taken from them already, and giving them a promise of kind of a new life and new hope.
Kelsey, we've spoken a lot about girls and the way that girls are affected in this. What about boys? What does this look like for young boys?
So often when we talk about human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking, we are only saying she and we use her. But the reality is that boys are being trafficked too. What trafficking looks like for young boys, often we see boys who are running away. When a child is on the street, when a boy is on the street, they are so vulnerable. And so when your choices look like sleeping on the street and going another night without a meal, or going home with somebody who's promising you hot food and safety and a place to sleep, what choices do you have in those moments? And so boys who are running away and who are homeless are at such an increased risk of trafficking for those reasons.
What is the biggest misconception regarding where trafficking takes place? Is it prevalent in the United States, specifically aimed at children?
Yes. So it's kind of shocks people when they hear that human trafficking is happening here. Most of the time, when people hear human trafficking, they kind of confuse it with human smuggling. And human smuggling is that illegal crossing of borders. Human trafficking doesn't have to involve movement at all. So somebody who is trafficked could be trafficked from their own home and they never leave their neighborhood. This is not an over there problem. It's not something that's only happening in other countries. This is something that's happening in the United States to US citizens, to US kids.
Yeah. How does an outsider or a bystander identify a child that is in a vulnerable situation?
The scary truth is that often these kids are not being identified. Because of the way that trafficking is often portrayed, kids are getting missed. The actual victims are not being seen because it doesn't look like what people expect it to look like. Those kids who are being trafficked by family members, they're still showing up to school. They are going to the grocery store. They're interacting in everyday life. They're going to the doctor. You might not notice any obvious signs. There's some children who I worked with who were being trafficked, and when they were at school, they presented like the perfect student. Because for them, being at school was their safe place. And so they enjoyed it. They were happy at school. So there's not always obvious signs. You can start building foundations with a young child. You don't have to wait until they're ready to access online. It's about having conversations around healthy relationships, around consent and boundaries. Those start to build on each other. And as the child grows older, you can start introducing concepts of like tricky people. So this is kind of what has replaced stranger danger. Because when you think of stranger danger, there's a lot of really great strangers out in the world. You have a lot of our law enforcement and all of these people who are good people that can help that are strangers. And then you also have people in our life who aren't strangers who have unsafe behaviors. And so you want to teach children instead the concept of unsafe behaviors and what makes a person unsafe. Examples of tricky people would be somebody who wants you to keep secrets, who is constantly maybe pushing some boundaries. People who are trying to get you away from your parents, whether at home or in another setting. They're trying to, come with me. We're going to go talk about this, whatever, who might be lavishing gifts. People who might be saying things like, hey, if you do this for me, I will do this for you. Building that foundation for a child where you are teaching them the difference between a safe and unsafe person and safe and unsafe behaviors allows them to easily identify those behaviors later down the line.
But specifically focusing on the conversation that parents can have with their children regarding online safety, can you give me some of those thoughts that we can shift to be able to protect our children from predators online?
It's terrifying because there's so much access to online, and it's almost impossible to cut your child completely from the internet. They have to have it for school. They have to have it for life as they're kind of moving through the world
with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's putting in safeguards as much as you can, going through their messages, going through their direct messages on the different apps, making sure you know who their friends are, who are they following, who's following them. If your child is getting messages saying, hey, you are so beautiful, you should come model for me, that is a red flag. You should trust your gut that hey, something doesn't feel right there. If you're getting those messages and it's, hey, I want to pay you money for photos. Again, another red flag. Usually those situations that seem too good to be true are true. On the other side of it, we're now seeing trends where predators are reaching out to kids and saying, hey, your photos got leaked online. Or, hey, we know about what you did or what happened. And children can't always recognize in the moment that, hey, that's a scam, or hey, that's probably not right, or hey, I should tell a grown-up because they could probably fix that situation, or, they might panic in that moment. And then that panic kind of turns to them saying, hey, what could I do then to appease this person?
What signs do parents have to be on the lookout for to notice that something's off, that somebody is grooming my child, that there is some form of danger that my child is exposed to or possibly lured into? What are some of the signs that we look out for?
So there's not always obvious signs when your child is on the internet, especially if they're having unguarded time online and you start to see them maybe spending a lot of time online, maybe pulling away, spending a lot of time in their room away from their family. If you start seeing them become more combative, giving more pushback to the family and maybe showing more signs of anger. What's difficult, though, is those signs are also the signs of being a teenager.
Yeah.
And so it can be really difficult to tell, is my child being groomed or is my child facing different types of hormones and normal child development? And so in reality, you have to start building that foundation earlier so that your child can come to you if they're feeling unsafe, if they're feeling uncomfortable. Hey, has somebody said something to you online that made you uncomfortable? Has somebody approached you? By just being a loving, supportive person in your child's life, you are already doing one of the best things possible in setting up your child to be protected against being trafficked later down the line.
Kelsey, thank you so much for all of the work, effort, diligence that you've put into understanding this evil and to be able to fight against it. And I got to learn from you today as a soon-to-be mom. And I hope that this conversation helps all of us learn so that we can be better parents for our children.